share my screen. And can you guys see the slideshow? Okay. Okay. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Boston Urban Forest Friends meeting, May 10th. We're gonna start. So just the meeting norms, please stay on mute when other people are talking and presenting out of respect. All meetings are recorded so we can all watch them afterwards. And then obviously we love to see all of your beautiful faces. So if you feel comfortable, please turn on your cameras. Feels more engaging. And then if you have any questions, raise your hand or put questions in the chat. We'll be monitoring everything. So whatever works best for you. And then just please be respectful of everybody else's time. Try to keep things limited, even though we're all engaging in conversation, but that would just be much appreciated. So for the agenda today, we wanted to say Happy Mother's Day weekend to everybody celebrating. I feel like even being a parent is one of the hardest jobs in the entire world. So just paying respect to that, appreciating, caring, loving, brings a lot of awareness to this weekend. So I just wanted to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody who's celebrating. And then we're going to start with community updates and announcements. And then we have two special guests today. Dr. Nadina Gaye, I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And then Dr. Christine Carmichael. They're both going to be talking about their books that they're releasing or have previously released, which is super exciting. And then we're going to get into Speak for the Trees updates and then just open discussion comments, which allows for time. Another big announcement is that, which Jarrell will talk about later, but the BUFF Symposium is going to be on June 29th, which allows us all to come in person and celebrate the accomplishments of BUFF, kind of just talking about the work that we do. So save the date. Location is to be determined, but Jarrell can talk more about that later. So we're going to start with community updates. So if anybody has anything to share, now would be the time. You can just raise your hand or just start talking, whatever works. Anita, do you want to go first?
Yes, I have great news. The Watertown Forests for Watertown group applied for a grant from our Bosch Community Fund, and we were very hopeful about it, and we just received word that it's been granted to us. We have $25,000 to help us make a Miyawaki Forest happen in November in Watertown in a schoolyard. And it's very exciting, and I'd love to talk with anybody who's interested in any aspect of that. I'll put my email in the chat. I have to dash early today because of that grant. But if you'd like to have more information, please just send me an email. And I'll get my hand down. Oh, it is down. Good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That sounds so awesome and amazing. Sarah, did you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I don't think it was on the agenda, so I'll just put it out here. Some of you may have heard about a forum that happened in April called Why Trees Matter for Green Development, put on by Trees as a Public Good. If you weren't there, I'll try to find the link and put it in the chat during the meeting. And there were presentations by scientists and by advocates dealing with issues ranging from Plymouth to Boston. And the Shattuck Hospital that I always update on. Not a whole lot of news. We're kind of waiting to see what the state and Boston Medical Center might come back with, but we did have a presence at Wake Up the Earth festival last weekend, and we'll be at the hope to have a presence at the Kite and Bike Festival May 18th. So hope to see some of you in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Does anybody else have anything to bring up? Jack, do you want to go next?
Yeah, hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Just wanted to give a few updates on the work we've been doing at the Emerald Necklace Conservancy because spring always keeps us pretty busy. We had a big Arbor Day planting at the end of April, which was coincidentally also on Olmsted's birthday. So it was nice because it checked a few boxes for us. But we planted 10 trees in Olmsted Park, some along the Jamaica Way and some in the park interior there. And we're going to be planting another 8 trees early next week in Jamaica Pond Park to replace some removals there. So a fun mix of species going in with some tulip trees, some red maple, some hornbeams, a whole bunch of things. That's exciting, but we're also kind of transitioning into our summer maintenance and care seasons. We have our watering truck back up and running to try to water young trees throughout the necklace. We also had received a Fenway beautification grant from the BPDA, so we got to put in a whole bunch of native shrubs around our visitor center. So we did that yesterday. We'll be putting a few more in on Saturday. So yeah, we're staying busy. We've had our hands in the soil a lot, so that's been a joy. And also wanted to thank the Speak for the Trees team for the seedlings you all gave us. We were able to give those away at our Earth Day cleanup event and also at our Arbor Day event. So it's been a nice spring, and I hope people have been enjoying it. Yeah, thanks everyone.
It's so great. I actually live right next to the like Olmsted Park. So on my morning walk this morning, I saw the newly planted trees, which is really awesome to see. It was really awesome. Tyler, would you like to share next?
Sure. Hey, everybody. Some of you, it seems like we have time, so I'll share something that seems not directly relevant, but again, my pronouns are he, him. I did an urban forestry research project in grad school, so I'm glad, and I've been part of Buff for a while now. Excited to be here. There's a new transportation group called the Boston Mobility and Justice Collaborative that's starting up here. And I'm really interested in I have a broad infrastructure background, and I'm excited to be working at the intersection of transportation and urban forestry, how we can, trees create spaces where people can be together and, slow motorists down, so it's safe spaces for people. And yeah, I just want to share that. Over.
Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to share? Okay. I'm going to share my screen again.
Susan Stamps. Susan was raising her
Oh.
hand, Julia.
I'm so sorry, I cannot see that.
He was waving.
Sorry. How do I okay. Stop sharing? Susan, all you. Sorry
Hi,
about that.
thank you. I just got on. I couldn't find the link, but anyway. Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Stamps. I'm on the Arlington Tree Committee and also part of a group that started last year called Green Streets Arlington to have sort of, do greening projects around town. Last year we worked with the folks fashioning the MBTA community zoning to make sure that there were nice, good size 15-foot setbacks in all of those zones to make room for trees, etc. This year our project was a warrant article to require shading in parking lots, which are huge heat islands in our urban areas, of course. And we worked for several months with the planning board and the community, and we to fashion a zoning bylaw amendment that would, once trees are mature, provide about 50% shade in the parking lots. We also added solar panels to the mix if people want to use both solar panels and or trees. Anyway, so long story short, it passed in a landslide at town meeting this week. So we were very excited about that, and we'd certainly be happy to share with it. It seems to we found that in a few places around the country, but it's still not, you don't really see it very much. So, but we think it's low hanging fruit, so to speak. And it's more about planning for the future because it only applies to parking lots which will be built in Arlington. There aren't that many left, and they're the larger ones. We're hoping to expand it to other areas, and we have yet to figure out what our next project is, which is taking a little breather now. But I did want to share that with people in case you're interested in maybe doing that where you live. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I saw in the chat that Tyler would like to connect, so I hope you guys get the opportunity to get involved together. Does anybody else have any updates for us? Okay, I'm going to share my screen again and move on. Okay. So now we're going to have our first guest speaker, Dr. Nadina Gaye, who I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong, but
No, Gali is fine too. It's a little easier.
okay. And then she's going to talk about her newest book, The Nature of Our Cities, which I believe has not been released yet, but I am super excited. Yes, I'm super excited to hear everything you have to share. So the floor is all you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Do you mind just giving me screen sharing rights?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me. Does anybody know how to do that? Maybe.
Yep, that's it. Perfect.
I got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's so great to be here and to reconnect with the Boston Urban Forest friends. It's been a while, and it's lovely to be here again and see some familiar faces as well. Just to give a little bit of context into who I am and what I'm doing here, I got the chance to reconnect with David of Speak for the Trees this past week, which was lovely. It had been nearly 5 years since we'd last chatted, and that's because 5 years ago I was in Boston, in Cambridge, as part of my PhD at the MIT Sensible City Lab, where I was on Fulbright scholarship. Actually, that's me in the left-hand bottom photo with the tree, as me taking soil samples with red maples. That was my project there at the Sensible City Lab, which was really exciting because for those of you that know the Sensible City Lab, know it's all about tech and cities. But in their 21-year history at that point, I was the very first ecologist to ever be on their team. So I was very, very proud to have that role, and it was a lot of fun. And as some of you might know, they do have some greenery projects, like they championed the project of Treepedia, which some of you might be familiar with. But they had developed a lot. They had a keen interest in doing more with urban ecology and urban forestry. And I got the opportunity to be one of the first to do that with the Sensible City Lab, which was incredible. I've since finished the PhD, thank God, really glad that that's done and over with. And I've gotten the chance, or I should say, the plan was originally actually to stay in Boston and maybe do a postdoc and continue, because beside the work at MIT, I was doing this incredible work with MONUM, the Mayor's Office for New Urban Mechanics at the City of Boston, and with Speak for the Trees. We were actually working on this really unique tool to use high-resolution satellite imagery to do individual crown delineation of tree crowns, to be able to offer tree inventories to communities that might not have the resources to be able to do them on the ground, have that be a way that they can at least get a baseline tree inventory. And we were developing all of this work, and it was really exciting, and there seemed to be a big future also with the City of Boston for more of this kind of work. But then, of course, it was March 2020, and as an international student, I was told to get out and get out quickly. So that's what I did, and sadly, that's where my life and journey in Boston ended. Which is, anyways, I won't get into what would have happened if COVID never happened. But anyways, since then, I've gotten the opportunity to a bunch of wonderful projects as well, both in Toronto and Amsterdam. I'm Dutch Canadian, so I split my time between those two places, getting to research and write and talk more about not just remote sensing, but all these other emerging technologies within this field and how we can really apply it to urban forestry and to urban ecology. So I research and I write and I speak on these topics. I have a podcast and now author of this upcoming book, which I'd love to share with you all today. But just briefly on a little bit of my philosophy when it comes to urban ecology and urban forestry. I wholeheartedly believe that nature is not a luxury, as we've seen urban forestry and urban trees really be touted as this luxury, something that we have in rich and fancy neighborhoods. No, it is not a luxury. It is a must-have. It is an indispensable necessity of urban life, which I'm sure in this audience we can all agree. But the fact of the matter is that many urbanites are often disconnected from nature, and partly related to that, many authorities also lack the tools to prioritize nature in cities. And this is exactly the kind of work that we were doing with the city of Boston at the time as well. And I really saw these two concurrent trends 5 years ago as I was approaching the end of my PhD. So these two concurrent trends, on the one hand, seeing this smart city movement and feeling really frustrated that despite all these exciting technologies that were helping cities with their mobility and waste management and lighting and quality of life, we are really lacking any technologies, any emerging technologies, any tools that really helped foster the urban ecology, really the foundation of our cities. And I felt like urban ecology and urban forestry were totally being left behind by the smart city movement. And at the same time, we see this growing trend of people living in cities, which the vast majority of us do, being really disconnected from nature. So seeing these two trends, I really was keen to understand what an Internet of Nature might look like. A new sub-classification of emerging technologies that are specifically designed to map, monitor, and enhance nature in cities, and also reconnect urbanites to that nature. Now, after I came up with this concept, I decided that to move out of academia and share a lot of the things that I'd learned throughout my studies, I wanted to bring those onto a bigger stage and more into the mainstream. That's a huge passion of mine, is science communication, helping us take a lot of these complex issues that, let's be honest, urban forestry affects each and every one of us in our cities, in our daily lives every single day. Yet so many people don't know about it. So many people don't know the basics of soil health, the basics of microclimates, the basics of the urban heat island effect, and all of these things that affect urban citizens on the day-to-day, but there's so little information about there that helps really bring it home to a general public. And I really feel like that's where we need to go. So as one approach to try and bridge that gap was a podcast, the Internet of Nature podcast. And I got the chance to interview a lot of the people that I'd met throughout my studies and help bring their stories to the main stage. And as I was doing the podcast, I realized that, yes, the podcast was a great medium to share these stories, but there was so much more there. And really, it was the podcast interviews and the book research and interviews that followed that led to me writing The Nature of Our Cities, which comes out on June 18th. It'll be published by HarperCollins. And it really is yes, it falls into the category of popular science, but it's written as a fiction. There's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of me describing scenes. Like, for example, I described when I first walked into Greg Mossman, a name some of you might recognize, the former chief urban forester, a tree warden of the city of Boston, walking into his office, and he graciously wanted to help me identify the locations of red maple trees in Boston that I needed for my research. And being totally overwhelmed when I saw him with pen notes on his hands and sticky notes everywhere, on the phone with someone from the city trying to describe a tree location, and realizing that at this time, the city of Boston, for all the trees that they manage and all the work that they do, did not have a functioning tree inventory. So I write about that story and the new technologies in the tree inventory space. I write about my struggles being able to measure trees in the field, and I was doing that kind of work. I go up a Douglas fir with an urban forester from Oregon named Scott Altenhoff, talking about how important trees are to the longevity of cities. All of these really critical people that are at the heart of this movement. The book is divided into 9 different chapters, plus a prologue and an epilogue, and each chapter really deals with a different urban issue. So whether that's resource mismanagement or extreme heat, wildfires, flooding, biodiversity, mental health, longevity, and one that's really close to my heart, speaking of Mother's Day, since I did become a parent for the first time this year, is children's connection, or should I say disconnection with nature, and how we can reconnect children with nature in our cities. Because again, this is where the majority of us are born and will continue to live for the foreseeable future. Now, I want to be very wary of your time, so let me just introduce a couple of the characters that you might run into. Some really lovely people have said some really lovely words about the book. I've been really lucky to get endorsements from Dan Buettner, who wrote The Blue Zones, Robin Thurston, who's the founder and CEO of Outside Interactive, which owns Outside the Magazine, and Michael Easter. For any of you that have read his books, The Comfort Crisis and Scarcity Brain, I can highly recommend those. They're fantastic. So in the book, you might meet people like Boek van Dijk, who is a theater director who uses a geolocated sound. So she basically created this audio immersive experience where she has a number of talking trees. So the GPS triggers the sound. So the technology is not a distraction, but rather an aid to this experience. You do this tour around, this is in Amsterdam North, and there's these 6 trees. Here's one of them, me and listening to it, that actually talk to you. And the incredible thing about the story is that it not only offers people a different perspective on these different trees, but it actually has helped combat a lot of deforestation this particular neighborhood in Amsterdam was facing. In fact, this immersive audio experience has now become mandatory listening for all urban planners within the city of Amsterdam. So it just goes to show that sometimes we need to be taken out of our elements, anthropomorphize trees where appropriate, and that can actually help people understand the plight of urban trees and communicate that plight in an effective, easy to understand way that makes it a fun experience and also really helps to boost advocacy, especially when it comes to deforestation, as was proven here. You'll also read about Allison Young, who might be familiar to some of you. She's from the California Academy of Sciences, and together with Lila Higgins, she founded the City Nature Challenge, which actually just took place 2 weeks ago. It happens now, 9 years later since they founded it, in over 700 cities worldwide, where they use the iNaturalist app on their phone and this 4-day annual BioBlitz to identify, photograph, observe, and upload as many observations to iNaturalist as possible. I got the opportunity to spend the week in La Paz, not the capital, but the largest city in Bolivia, 2 weeks ago, to make a documentary about this, because La Paz has actually been crowned the winner of the City Nature Challenge for 3 years in a row, which is just insane. It's a country with incredible biodiversity, but the real story is that they've been able to get every single school in La Paz and every single university involved in this 4-day BioBlitz. It's really a celebration of urban wildlife and flora and fauna. So you'll read about that story. And lastly, you'll meet characters like Jared Hanley, who founded Nature Quant, which I believe is the next generation of GIS analysis in the urban forestry field, which looks at urban forestry through the lens of remote sensing data, not only as where can we put plants, where do we have certain trees already, but actually looking at urban forestry through a public health lens and looking at urban forestry as a public health intervention. They basically created this map called Nature Score. You can input any address in the US and Canada, and it essentially tells you how high your nature score is in that area. It's already being used by the Arbor Day Foundation and by the Biden administration to understand where are nature deficient neighborhoods and where does an organization like the Arbor Day Foundation, where can they best put their efforts into doing greening interventions. But like I write in the book, the data will only get us so far. The data can only tell us where to target our interventions. It's the on-the-ground troops that really matter. And it's research like that of Dr. Christine Carmichael, who will follow me. And I write about her work in the book as well, that understanding where and with who we do these interventions are incredibly important to make sure that they're wanted and to make sure that there is a certain ownership there and to make sure we're doing this in a way that's as inclusive as possible. So one thing I'll just mention before I close off is that throughout all of these examples, and I hope you've seen that a little bit in how I talk about them, it's all about nature first and technology second. This is not about creating some techno utopia where technology is going to solve everything. No, it's about highlighting responsible, ethical, and powerful ways we can use technology to assist nature in our city, because it needs help. Let's be honest about that. And it would be a shame for us to look at technology as nature's enemy and not be able to use that at all. There are really fascinating ways where technology can be a real asset to this mission. And those are the stories and particularly the people that I really want to highlight in this growing movement. Last thing I'll mention is that anyone who pre-orders a copy of The Nature of the Cities before June 18th has the opportunity to join the Nature of Our Cities book club, which is something that I'm setting up to organize to really celebrate its release, but also build a community that's much bigger than just the book. So if any of you are interested in that, you just pre-order your copy from any of your favorite book retailers. You send me your receipt and I'll add you to the book club, and we'll get you the companion reading guide. There's a book club webinar, and there will be a LinkedIn group as well to continue the conversation. So thank you very much, Julia and Jarell and David, for providing me with an opportunity to share a little bit about my book. I thank you a lot.
Thank you so much for sharing, Nadina. I'm so
Thank you.
excited to read your books. A couple things that just resonated with me. Number one, I'm going to Amsterdam for the very first time this summer. It was a little treat to myself, so I'm so excited to hear about the talking trees. I honestly would not have known about that if you didn't mention it. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And then I really resonated with the whole environmental health is a public health issue. I think if anything, that's why I care so deeply about the environment. It resonates with people a lot more than we see up front. So I just really liked that perspective. And then the fact that you are very like people-centered, I think resonates with Speak for the Trees' organization in itself, but also just people are the ones being affected by these issues. So I really loved that approach. I didn't know if anybody else wanted to share their responses or anything, but
I was gonna say that I love nature first, technology second. I really like that. You know, I believe in that as well. I mean, I love technology, but I love nature even more. You know, so that's really great perspective. Thank you, Nadina. That was awesome. Anyone
Thanks,
else? Feel free.
Yeah, I think that telling stories is how people get ideas. And so that's a fabulous approach. I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you, Anita.
Nadine, I teach arboriculture and urban forestry courses to undergraduates at UMass. And anytime my students need to have extra credit or a makeup assignment, I assign your podcasts.
Do you really?
Yeah, and it's really fun. And also, and sometimes for discussion groups. And again, a lot of my students taking my class may be doing it as an elective, so they really aren't coming from an urban forestry, major, but it's so cool to just see the students like really open up and, get their minds going, and yeah, they're blown away. And I also use the nature score at the beginning of every class I teach and again, people are just like, we really talk about how tree canopy is not equal, and it just shows you right there when we do the nature score, and like, what, do where we are right now on campus, and then do where where you grew up, and how that matters. But yeah, I just love, and again, I'm a boomer. I am not a person that grew up with technology, but I love it. And I do think it is definitely a way to engage with so many people that don't necessarily think about the trees like we all are thinking of them. So keep up the good work, and I can't wait for your book to come out.
Oh, thank you so much, Christina. That made my day. Like, to know that the podcast is having that kind of impact on young people, that's why you do it. Let them know about the book club if they're interested. That sounds like a good fit.
great. Thank you again, Nadina. That was really impactful, and I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you so much. And baby fell right back asleep, so yay on all parts.
It's a sign. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Next, we have another special guest, Dr. Christine Carmichael, who we had the luxury of hosting for a week during our Arbor Week. She gave 3 incredible book talks about her newest book, Racist Roots. I'm sure she's going to share more information, but Christine, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Yeah, I did not prepare slides for the discussion, but I do want to just kind of more informally talk about the book. And Nadina, I'm so excited about your book coming out. I remember when we did an interview a while ago for the book, so I'm excited to read it. And I think there are several points that you made that I would like to kind of point out that I think my book could be complementary to. And I will say, so first of all, so I started the research, again, also pre-COVID. I was able to complete my research between around 2013 and 2017 in Detroit, Michigan. And I was looking at residents in predominantly Black communities and lower income communities that were turning down the offers of free street trees from a nonprofit organization that the city was partnering with called the Greening of Detroit. And so a lot of, there was several years of research where I was doing really in-depth sort of complementary to what Nadina was talking about the technology. I was doing a lot of the qualitative research and community engaged research to talk with on the ground communities. So it's really nice to hear her talk about how all these technologies can help us identify what neighborhoods we need to be focusing on. But then hopefully, so through Racist Roots, the goal is that to give some more background about why certain communities, especially communities of color and lower income communities, have fewer trees and generally less well cared for trees than whiter and more affluent communities. So the book is talking about sort of the history of redlining and all the things that I walked into in Detroit without realizing. So I think it's really important as people working in urban forestry that we become very aware of the racial and social injustices that we're walking into and that residents have been experiencing for decades. And so I was sort of in 2014, so almost 10 years ago, walking into Detroit, knowing that people didn't turn down trees, but my initial thought was because I had grown up in a predominantly white suburb of Lansing, Michigan, my experience with trees had been generally positive. And so my first reaction when I heard about people turning down trees was, who wouldn't want a tree? And it was really poignant because through the qualitative and community engaged research, I talk about how people can learn from what I did as well and take similar steps. So not only finding where the low canopy communities are, but then going and forming relationships with the community groups that are in those neighborhoods and really starting from a place of not necessarily starting from trees, but starting with understanding what they've been through, what's important to their community. So in the book, I do talk about some steps that anyone can take if you're interested in learning more about people's histories with trees. You can do these heritage narratives. You can collect heritage narratives, which are like stories about a community's history. So that's something I talk about in the book, is not only the history we're walking into, but how to be sensitive to that history. So I was sort of a little ignorant walking into it and didn't know about redlining. Honestly, the history about redlining and trees didn't come to light until after I did my research. It's been, in the last 10 years that we've really learned about redlining and tree canopy. So when I walked into communities, a lot of residents had experienced this, but I was unaware that this was a dynamic that was playing out. And so basically what I think is important is, starting with the people who are most closely affected by our urban forestry programs, and not necessarily leading with trees, but leading with the community and what their priorities are. And so as the book progresses, I kind of walk you through activities, and I was able to, as Julia mentioned, visit Boston a couple weeks ago, and we did a staff training. And one of the things that we did in the staff training was talk about, what are your experiences with trees? What are memorable experiences you've had with trees? Are they mostly positive? Are they mostly negative? And we kind of put the sticky notes on the wall. And then we talked about, well, what are the stories you're hearing from the residents residents that you're serving in those low canopy communities. And what we see is that a lot of us get into the urban forestry profession because we do love trees and we've had positive experiences with trees, and we want everyone to have positive experiences with trees. But that's not necessarily the norm or the case in all communities. And a lot of times people have had negative experiences with trees not being very well cared for a variety of reasons. And in Detroit, they went through bankruptcy the same year that I started my research. There was a lot of issues around having the capacity and the finances to take care of trees. But really what the goal of the book is to help people not only understand sort of the history and then how to engage with communities, but how can we move forward where we have both a social justice lens and an environmentalism lens. So we're really focusing on the places where nature is needed the most, and we're focusing on the voices of the people who are most closely affected, and we focus on trying to engage. So I talk in the book about different engagement approaches that you can use. Like there's some example survey questions that Tree Pittsburgh has offered, asking people, what problems do you encounter with street trees? What does Pittsburgh's urban forest need the most? So there's sort of these activities you can do all the way from surveys to interviews with people to focus groups and community roundtable discussions. In Holyoke, Massachusetts, I helped develop the Urban Forest Equity Plan after this research that I did in Detroit. And we did a selfie contest where we asked people in predominantly Hispanic neighborhoods to submit selfies of themselves with their favorite tree and explain why it was their favorite tree. I actually have, I'll just show really quickly. Oh, I think I need screen sharing ability. I'll wrap up, but just wanted to kind of share. Oh, there we go. This was one of them this is from Holyoke. This was Fernando. And so we had them submit selfie pictures with the description. And he said, this is my favorite tree because it's the first place I visited in Holyoke after Hurricane Maria in 2017. It's the first tree I saw with this beautiful color, the first time that I saw it in real life. And it's really powerful. So that's just one of the strategies that I highlight in the book. Along with in Nashville, Tennessee, they have a neighborhood planting captain program. There's also, and where they basically hire local residents and they pay them $1,000 to find homes for 50 trees on private property. So it's really using some of the lessons of the book, which is to tap into the trusted networks that are already, people that are already trusted in a neighborhood. And that can be more helpful than coming in necessarily as an outside entity. So yeah, I think that there's a lot in the book about using an abundance mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, because racism sort of depends on having a scarcity mindset, which is that there's only enough for you or for me. There's only enough time or money or resources, and someone has to lose in order for someone else to win. And what this book is trying to do is understand that by investing in the neighborhoods that need it the most, that have been the most disadvantaged, the most treated poorly over time, it helps everybody. And especially, we should be focusing a lot of our energy on the areas where it's needed the most and respecting the wisdom, the insights, the perspectives of the people in those communities, really seeking to understand their relationship with trees and how we can help sort of serve as consultants almost to those communities, bringing things like technology, like what Nadina was talking about, and democratizing that, sharing that with communities so that they can be part of decision-making processes. So I think that there's a lot in the book about all of these different topics, but the focus is really for anyone that's interested in trying to implement more of an anti-racist approach to urban and community forestry. This book is really kind of the goal of it is to give some of that historical context and talk about the work that I've done in the last decade about how do we center communities, especially those who have been most unfairly treated, in our urban forestry decision-making processes. And so that's the goal. I will put in, so that you can buy the book on Amazon. I self-published, so it's different than how Nadina has done her book. But if you would like to purchase a signed copy, I'm more than happy to arrange that. You can just email me. I put it in the chat. And I would be happy to arrange that for you. I can mail it to you directly if you would like to, or you can go on Amazon and just purchase the book. There's also a Kindle version as well. So yeah, I welcome any questions or thoughts or comments you have. Hopefully I gave a decent overview of some of the highlights of the book and the goal of the book. And yeah, would love to hear anything.
And thank you, Christine. I'm so enthused that, because I really feel like, and I knew this going into, because obviously I'm familiar with your work, but that the books really are so complementary to one another. It's really kind of the overview to diving down to the street level where they'll be with you. So I think that's really, really exciting. And one thing that we should mention for those of you that have still not had enough of Christine and I, Planet Geo is actually putting on a webinar, Authors in Urban Forestry, on May 22nd. And the two authors they've selected are Christine and I. So we're going to have a chance to have another webinar talking about the books and really how they complement each other so well, which I'm really excited about. And I will mute myself now.
And I just want to call out, when Christine was here, she gave 3 book talks, and a lot of the local booksellers, and not to say that you shouldn't order directly from Christine, but if you want to get the book today, you can visit Frugal Bookstore. I know Leonard ordered a lot of your books. More Than Words has a couple. Brookline Booksmith, I think, was running low, and then Newtonville Books also has some. So, and I think a couple at Frugal might already be signed, if I'm not mistaken.
So I did sign some at Frugal Bookstore, so for sure visit there if you would like to try to get a signed copy locally.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing. I wrote down 4 little snippets that I just really took away from yours. I said, human experience centered, understanding contexts, people who are already trusted, and then the abundance versus scarcity mindset. I think those are 4 major takeaways from the book, but I also really appreciate your perspective and understanding in context. I don't know if anybody else has anything they would like to say, but those are just things that really resonated with me.
I agree with you, Julia. Those resonate with me as well. And I think Mars as well. I saw them put their hands up. I don't know, but that's really great. And I just wanted to express again how great of a training that was for us, Christine. Thank you so much. And, I know I'm speaking for everybody that we really came out of there with a renewed.
Oh, you muted yourself there, Jarrell.
Oops, sorry. I just said I can speak for everybody else to say that it was a really great training, and we all came away with, how much better to work with the community and engage with them. So thank you again, Christine. I appreciate it. And I love the book.
Oh, great. I'm so happy to hear that. Thank you, Jarrell. It was really a pleasure. It made that week was so special. I was so happy to come to Boston.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Go ahead, Melissa.
Hi. Congratulations on your book. As a person who has just finished writing a book after a decade of trying, I really, really commend you for trying to do it in what is a very tough publishing environment, and for you doing it as a self-published book and bringing it out to people like us. It's absolutely fabulous. I've worked for years as part of the Mothers Out Front Healthy Soils, Healthy Futures, and I'm in David's camp. I admire some things about technology, but I think nature is our best technology we have, and the more we spoil it, the less it will do for us. So I thank you very much, and I already know many people, both in my organization as well as friends, who will be receiving this book. So thank you again for doing it and persevering and doing the work you've done. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa. I'm really happy to hear that. And feel free to reach back out after you read some of the book and let me know what you think.
Will do.
Yeah, I've become aware of the necessity to engage a community if you want to help the condition of that community. But I'm clueless as to how to actually do that. I know I need to, but how do I do that? So I'm really looking forward to reading your book. Thank you.
Great. I also just want to say thank you, Nadina, for making it aware that you guys are doing the webinar together. I will definitely attend. I think that sounds amazing. So thank you for putting that on our radar.
I saw that David just posted in the chat, so thank you, David.
I'm going to share my screen.
Those photos look familiar. The two photos on the Planet Trio. Yeah, thank you. So maybe Nadina, we can have you come next Harvard Week and share your work. We had a
I
great
would
time
love
with
to
Christine.
come back
Come
to
back to Boston
in
and
too
finish
long.
that project.
Yes.
Susan has her hand up.
Hi, I'm so excited to hear about both of these books. They're just incredibly inspiring. We're just rolling out our 4th or 5th year of our Adopted Tree program, and we're going to be taking it to the next level in terms of organizing we're going to try to find a tree adoption coordinator, quote unquote, in each precinct in Arlington. We have 21 precincts to find people to adopt trees. And we do have a tree inventory with a tree map, which our town's GIS department has segregated the trees which have been planted this year and the previous 2 years just onto that map. So we have a tree adoption map, and people can go on it, click on the tree they want to adopt, etc. But we have very low participation, like only about 10% of our baby trees get adopted. So we're really going to try to ramp it up this year. And my comment about how are people going to implement these amazing ideas you have, and it's so inspirational. And my number one suggestion is to have an urban forest committee like we have in Arlington. There are quite a few towns in the Boston area that still don't have a town board that is the tree committee like we have in Arlington. And so you get so much more respect and can get so much more done, and money and budget, that type of thing, when you are actually connected into the municipal infrastructure. So I just like to encourage everybody who lives somewhere where there isn't an urban forest committee or a tree committee or whatever you want to call it, to really lobby to get one appointed. Ours was appointed by the select board. So that's all I had to say. And thank you so much. It's been great to hear you guys.
Thank you, Susan. As David put in the chat, I've been working on getting our Adopt a Tree program kind of off the ground a little bit. So would love to connect about what strategies you use and what insights you have.
Yes, well, you guys are leading the way on pretty much everything as far as I can tell.
Good to collaborate though, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything to share before we move on? Okay. Let's share my screen again. Okay, so we have Speak for the Trees updates now. I think I'll start very quickly. I wanted to just bring awareness. I know I gave a couple months ago, I can't remember which month, but I have been updating the Buff website. So we do have a website, it's bostonforest.com. And the two facets that I've been working on is the Buff members webpage, so you can see like who is a member of this group. Gives like a short little blurb, contact information, literally anything you would like to share. But if you do want to be featured on this page, you just have to email me with whatever like information you're comfortable with sharing, and then a little headshot so we know, so people can like identify who you are. This is kind of viewed as like a networking tool, also just like community building. We see who's involved in the group. So if you are interested, I can put my email in the chat after I finish sharing, so you can be featured on the website. And it is password protected, so if you're worried about like privacy, etc., only the members of Buff can view this. I sent out the password in a previous email. I'll probably do it again in the upcoming one. So if you're interested, please feel free. We would love to have more people featured besides just Speak for the Trees team, because you guys are the people who make all of this happen. And then also we have the events calendar that is literally any like community event in the city of Boston, or like outlying Metro Boston area. Anything related to trees can go on this calendar. So as you see, today is the Buff meeting. There's like a registration link and everything. And then if you wanted to share an event, you can just fill out this little form right over here, which will get sent to me, and then I'll add it to the calendar. So just bringing awareness, making it more accessible for people. But I just wanted to remind everybody that these are features that we have updated more recently. So we would love to get everybody more engaged and involved. But in terms of other Speak for the Trees updates, I don't know if Jarrell or David have anything that they would like to share.
Yes, I'm up next. Would you mind sharing that slide
Yes.
that I put in there? I did realize that I did not do my due diligence and send Julia the updated information that I have for our event that we are actually having tomorrow. I don't know. Tomorrow we have a pre-Mother's Day tree giveaway at the Food Project at the West Carter Street Farm in Dorchester. We've partnered with the folks at the Food Project. This is our second year with them. I used to work with the Food Project, so that's a relationship that I already have with us. But this is our second tree giveaway at the Food Project farm. It's a beautiful farm. We have some beautiful trees. If anyone is interested in coming out to grab a free tree, please register online, or even just stop by to say hello to some of the Speak for the Trees folks. I will not be there tomorrow, but our amazing team will be there to hand out these trees and to, just to be a part of the community. So I'll make sure that gets on our next event gets on the calendar, Julia. That was my fault. And then our June tree giveaway is happening at the Presentation School in Brighton. That is on Saturday, June 1st. And we will have some more amazing trees to give away for homeowners to plant at their homes. Yeah, we just hope that, you can add that to your calendars. If you can't make this weekend's event, please try to come out to the June 1st event and pick up a tree if you're interested in picking up trees. Both of these events, as you can see, are sponsored by Texas Roadhouse. That's a new partnership that we have going on, and they've been really supportive, and they will be at each of these tree giveaways to share some of their goodies, is what I was told. And, if you're interested in coming out to hang out with us, come get some goodies and come get a free treat. We hope to see you on both dates. Sarah, you have a question?
Yes, I was changed my mind and was going to put it in the chat, but since you called on me, do you have those flyers as a link for each sharing?
They're on our events page on our website, treeblocks.org.
Okay.
So yeah, you can find both flyers there. Yes. If you want me to send them to you, I'll send them to you directly, Sarah. How about that?
Even better. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send them to you directly. Also have one more update is that on June 29th, 2024 is our third annual Boston Urban Forest Friends Symposium. The location is to be determined, but we are aiming for June 29th. That's where we bring all of our Buff members and just all of our Buff members together to meet to discuss topics around the community engagement, that involve trees. We do have a couple of people who agreed to be speakers there. I'm looking at you, Todd. Good morning. Looking forward to working with you again. We also have Bill Masterson from Tree Eastie who will be joining us and speaking at the Buff Symposium. If anyone here is interested in joining us on that date, please let myself or Julia know. We will get you on the agenda for our Buff Symposium. Other than that, I think I'm all set with updates.
Thank you, Jarrell.
Mm-hmm.
David, was there anything you wanted to share quickly? Okay. I just wanted to personally bring awareness to the fact that I am a TerraCore member at Speak for the Trees. So my position ends at like the last week of July. So unfortunately, this will be the last Buff meeting that I'll be leading. I will probably participate after I finish my service term, but I just want to say thank you all for like creating such a warm, welcoming environment. This has truly been like very inspirational and just very impactful for my experience. And I'm so glad that I was brought awareness of this little community that we can build together. So as I continue to participate in less of a leadership role, I just wanted to say thank you all for your warm, welcoming encounters that we've had, and I love the community that we've built. So I'll keep seeing you around, but in less of a leadership role, but I just wanted to say thank you overall.
Thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate all the time that we spent together working and, working together, and just, having you here with us has really been excellent. So I'm really grateful for you, and we're going to miss you. I put a little sad face up there because I don't want to see you go, but
I know. I'll see you all hopefully in person at the Buff Symposium, but virtually for Buff meetings. I think this will be the last one until at least August or September. So I just wanted to make a formal little announcement to thank everybody.
So I expect to see everyone at the Buff Symposium, so we can all give Julia goodbye hugs. So that's your incentive for coming, to say goodbye to you.
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate you.
I will have updated information for this group very shortly in terms of the location. And so that will be one less thing that we all have to worry about. We have a date, then we'll have a location, and then we can build everything else around it.
Thank you, Jarrell. I appreciate you.
June 29th.
June 29th is the Buff Symposium.
Susan, yeah, June 29th. It's a Saturday. Go ahead, David.
No, that's it. I was going to answer Susan's question. Is it 10 to 2, Jarrell?
It'll be from 10 to 2.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, have a great Mother's Day, everyone, to all the mothers and children of mothers out there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Same, maybe. Same there. Happy Mother's Day. And I'll just say, Julia, feel free to fill out the survey if you can. I know many of you already have, but if you have not, please feel free to. Christine, I'm looking at you if you have any suggestions for us, because you are the teacher, and we learned from you. So
exactly.
All right. Well,
I'm gonna put the link in the chat, and then for the survey, and otherwise, I think we're all set to wrap up. But
right on time, Julia.
I know, it's literally time. I appreciate everybody for coming.
Yes.
I'll see you later.
Thank you all. Bye, Nadina. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.